Are you an entrepreneur with the business and you're trying to get to that next level? You feel like you may be hitting a wall, feel like you're plateauing. What you're actually looking to do is something called scaling. Scaling is really important for any business when it comes to success, because it's one thing to create something for a few people, but it's another thing to scale it and have multiple users. So today we're going to be doing a book review on Blitzscaling. And the author of this book is a guy by the name of Reid Hoffman. He's the founder of LinkedIn. He sold LinkedIn to Microsoft for like $25 billion back in 2016, and now he's on Microsoft's board. And he was also a part of the PayPal mafia. So I'm a big advocate on, I love reading books from authors who actually done the damn thing, not just people who study it. It's different. So like I said, I've been reading a book a week since 2015. I underline the top things in the book and I write it down in my notes here. And I like to compare it to mining gold. There's always a few nuggets that you get from books, and each book has a few more nuggets than others. So before I even get into the book review, Reid Hoffman has a podcast called Masters of Scale that's really good. And just to talk about scaling before we start going in the notes, just to give you a frame of reference. My favorite episode was when they had the founders of Airbnb on there. And they were talking about how they scaled Airbnb. And what led to this was they were talking to a venture capitalist, and he asked them a question. He was like, where are most of your customers? And they said, I forget the state, but let's say it's New York. And he's like, why the hell are you here? You need to be in New York where your customers are. So they went to New York and they just started knocking on their customers' doors asking for feedback. And that's what inspired them to hire photographers to start taking pictures of the room, because people were taking shitty pictures, amongst a bunch of other things. The craziest part of the story was they were in Colorado. It was snowing outside, and they asked this guy for feedback, and he literally had a bunch of papers of things that they could implement, and he gave it to them, and they were like, wow, thank you. So it's like the difference between building something and scaling something is the difference between your right brain and your left brain. When you're building something from scratch, using your right brain, you're trying to create something out of nothing, right? But when you use your left brain, you're implementing logic and systems and how things are going, stuff like that. That's what scaling is. Like building something and allowing it to be used by a lot of people, having a lot of volume, and still being able to meet that demand. Okay, so let's get right into it. They like to define blitzscaling as extremely risky, inefficient, do or die approach to growth. Sounds a little scary, but hey, that's business for you. Prioritizing speed over efficiency, even in the face of uncertainty, is especially important when your business model depends on having lots of members and getting feedback from them. If you get in early and start getting feedback and competitors don't, you're on the path to success. Next point. Because blitzscaling often requires spending significant amounts of capital in ways that traditional business wisdom would consider wasteful, implementing a financial strategy that supports this aggressive spending is a critical part of blitzscaling. Example, Uber often uses heavy subsidies on both sides of marketplace, drivers and riders, when launching it in a new city, lowering fares to attract riders and boosting payments to attract drivers. Next point. Companies that blitzscale have to rapidly navigate a set of key transitions as their organizations grow and have to embrace counterintuitive rules like hiring good enough people, launching flawed and imperfect products, letting fires burn, and ignoring angry customers. So in the beginning, Facebook had their culture was move fast, break things. Like, you want to see what works, that's the creative part. And then when you find what works, you scale it. And that's why they say it's harder to maintain than it is to get. Scaling is harder than building. And that's why most companies don't scale, because it's hard. Startups that rely purely on their tech innovation without any real business model innovation largely went bust. Sizing a market for a disruptor based on an incumbent's market is like sizing a car industry off of how many horses there were in 1910. Next point, distribution. Leverage existing networks and virality. Retention is important. Virality almost always require a product that is either free or freemium, aka free up to a certain point, and then the user has to pay to upgrade. The S-curve of innovation argues that the rate of adoption of every innovation eventually slows as the market saturates. However, companies like Apple have mastered the strategy of investing in new products that let them hop onto additional S-curves. So the S-curve, I think they're referring to what Malcolm Gladwell was talking about in Tipping Point. You have the innovators, the early adopters, early majority, late majority, laggards. So like, for example, the innovators are the people who like to wait outside for an iPhone, even though they can get it the next day at the store at the same price without any extra big benefits. Some people just like to be first. Those are the evangelists. And then once those people are first, they tell the early majority. And they're like, okay. And then they tell the late majority, and then the word just spreads like that. It's the adoption curve. Moving on. One of the reasons Google and Yahoo are where they are is because Google focused on AdWords, aka a marketplace with strong network effects, while Yahoo tried to become a media company, a traditional model based on economies of scale. Networking effects is, let's use the telephone as an example. If only 2 people can use the telephone, it only benefits 2 people. But the benefits go up the more people use it. That's networking effect. So if it's 2 people using the telephone, it's 2 connections. If it's 3 people using the telephone, this person can talk to this person can also talk to this person can talk to this person, and this person can talk to this person and this person. It's more connections, basically. All right, next one. Most non-obvious opportunities arise from a change in the market that the incumbents aren't willing or able to adapt to. Let that one sink in. Online marketplaces tap a global market, and by connecting buyers and sellers, instead of holding inventory or managing logistics, online marketplaces avoid many of the growth limits of human or infrastructure scalability. Next one. To achieve virality, Facebook would deliberately delay launching at a college campus until over 50% of the students so that local critical mass was reached almost instantly. Particularly when your company is small and lean and limited manpower, it pays to invest in the infrastructure necessary to support faster, data-driven decision-making. Particularly when your company is small and lean and has limited manpower, it pays to invest in the infrastructure necessary to support fast, data-driven decision-making. Beware of vanity metrics, aka numbers that present a rosy picture of the business but don't actually reflect its key growth drivers. So an example of a vanity metric would be like if you're a social media platform and you're just looking at signups. Oh, we got all these signups, everything's going good. What if those signups are all bots? Like, you want to look at the amount of interaction that's happening, how long people are on the platform for, like actual metrics that show your platform is growing, not just some that make you feel good so you can tell your friends. Acquisitions are the biggest offense and defensive plays in your nation playbook. Next one. Culture is more important when there is rapid growth and change rather than stability and stasis. Focus on diversity in the beginning. Hire with the company culture in mind. Ask yourself, are they already living like we would? Last one. To mitigate the inherent pitfalls of blitzscaling within a larger organization, treat the new initiative as a company within a company. Last one. Thought the last one was. This is the last one. Growing into the village stage, ask yourself, what things, if I don't fix them now, will be functionally impossible to fix at scale? So that is the end of the Blitzscaling book review. Let me know what you think. I definitely recommend this book to entrepreneurs who have to give it a rating. I give it a 9 out of 10. You know, I've definitely gotten more nuggets from other books, but this is a lot of good nuggets out of this book, especially right now because I'm trying to scale my company. So if you like this video, consider liking, subscribing. Let me know which book you want me to review next. But until then, I'll see you in the next one.